Hey there, sweetie. It's okay, you're safe now. Come on, let me see you. That's a good boy. See, that wasn't so scary, was it?
Rain fell softly that morning. Each drop tapped against the clinic windows like a quiet drumbeat, small rivers forming as the droplets ran down the glass. The waiting room smelled of lavender and freshly cleaned floors, a gentle calm that wrapped the space like a soft blanket. Outside, the world shimmered under gray clouds, the kind of morning that made everything feel slowed down, reflective, intimate. No one in the room seemed to notice the small dog tucked into a corner. Its fur was slightly damp from the wet pavement outside, clinging softly to its body. It shivered not from cold, but from something deeper, something unseen. Its eyes, dark and luminous, darted toward the rain as if it were listening to a story the humans couldn't hear. The dog lowered itself further into the corner, tail wrapped tightly, ears back, small, careful, but not scared. There was purpose in its posture, a quiet focus that pulled at the edges of the ordinary morning. Emily, the clinic's vet, walked past with her clipboard, glancing briefly at the dog. She paused, crouching a respectful distance away. "Every time it rains," she murmured, almost to herself. Her voice was soft, calm, carrying warmth rather than command. She noticed the subtle movements, the tilt of the head, the small lift of a paw, the way its nose twitched in rhythm with the soft patter of rain. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anxiety. There was something else there, something intentional. The room carried on its usual rhythm. Phones rang softly. Chairs scraped lightly across the floor. Murmured greetings and quiet conversations wove a background hum. But in that corner, time felt different, slower, stretched by the delicate mystery of the small dog. Every raindrop seemed amplified, a heartbeat in the quiet space. Emily shifted closer, careful not to startle it, her eyes never leaving the dog's small, alert figure. The dog sniffed the air, a subtle motion that spoke of memory, of awareness beyond what Emily could immediately understand. Its ears flicked slightly, listening to sounds beyond human perception. And then, just for a moment, their eyes met. There was a silent connection, a brief understanding, a recognition of unspoken emotion. Emily felt her chest tighten, an unexplainable tug at her heart. She whispered again, gentle, soft, "It's okay, you're safe here." The dog's ears flicked. Its eyes softened fractionally, though it didn't move from its corner. Emily watched, fascinated, her mind tracing possibilities. The dog wasn't simply hiding. It was reacting. It was remembering. There was intention behind its stillness, a story tucked behind those wide, attentive eyes. She realized, slowly, that this behavior wasn't ordinary. Emily glanced at the dog's small, damp paws, pressed lightly against the floor. Her hand itched to reach out, to offer comfort, but she resisted. She didn't want to intrude. Instead, she let the silence stretch, letting the gentle rhythm of rain and quiet breathe around them. Her voice became a soft murmur. "What are you thinking about, little one?" The dog lifted its head slightly, as if acknowledging her question without answering it. Its tail twitched softly, not in fear, but in response to some internal rhythm, some memory triggered by the rain. Emily's mind wandered. Was it fear? Loss? Or perhaps something else entirely? Around them, the clinic's soft sounds faded into the background as her focus sharpened on the dog. Each careful sniff, each slight tilt of its ears, each quiet glance toward the windows seemed meaningful. Emily realized she was holding her breath without noticing, caught in the fragile tension of something intimate and unseen. The dog's eyes flicked again toward the rain, and Emily felt a pang in her chest, a sudden empathy she couldn't explain. She knelt slightly closer, careful not to crowd the space, letting her presence be calm, steady, safe. "I don't know what this means yet," she whispered, "but I'm here." The dog stayed still. Its gaze never left the gray blur of rain outside. Emily noticed the damp of its fur, the way its small body seemed to curl inward protectively. And then, slowly, she realized, this wasn't just a reaction to the rain. This was memory, intuition, something deeper than habit. Something beautiful, heartbreaking, and utterly silent. She looked away for a moment, letting her thoughts drift, imagining the dog's past. A home, perhaps. A human it loved. A day when rain was more than water, but something that carried emotion, perhaps even loss. Her heart ached gently at the thought. The small dog lifted its head slightly, ears flicking once more, tail twitching softly. It was as if it had heard her, as if it had recognized her presence as different from the rest of the world. Emily felt her chest tighten again. She wasn't just observing a frightened animal. She was witnessing something far more delicate, a bond, waiting to form, a story waiting to be understood. The rain continued to fall, steady and rhythmic. Emily let a soft smile form, her voice barely above a whisper, I think we'll figure this out together. In that quiet, reflective corner of the clinic, she realized the truth. The dog's behavior, so subtle, so precise, had meaning. A meaning that would unfold, slowly, tenderly. And in that moment, Emily knew, deep down, what the dog sensed would change everything. The rain continued to fall outside, painting the clinic windows with streaks of gray and silver. Light from the overcast morning filtered softly through the glass, casting everything in a gentle, muted glow. The waiting room felt calm, almost meditative, as if the world outside had slowed to match the rhythm of the rain. The small dog remained in its corner, low to the ground, tail tucked, eyes flicking between the window and the entrance. But Emily noticed something new. The dog's movements weren't random. Its ears twitched at sounds that barely reached her. Its nose twitched with subtle precision, sniffing the air in small, careful bursts. Every motion suggested attention, awareness, not fear. Emily crouched nearby, keeping her voice soft and even. You're paying attention to everything, huh? She whispered. She could feel the rhythm of the dog's focus, sharp, quiet, deliberate. Each sniff, each tilt of the head seemed to follow an invisible thread. Emily couldn't see it, couldn't understand it fully, but she felt it, like a pulse connecting them through the quiet room. The dog shifted slightly, leaning forward, ears pricked. Its gaze fixed on the far side of the clinic, where a small drip from the ceiling had gathered in a puddle. Noticing Emily watching, it flicked its head toward her briefly, almost as if inviting her to notice what it had found. The gesture was subtle, quiet, but intentional. Emily's breath caught. She approached a little closer, careful to stay calm, letting the dog set the pace. What is it? Show me, she murmured softly. The dog didn't move, didn't bark. Instead, it sat, still attentive, watching with patient focus. Emily followed its gaze and noticed something she might have missed, a small, faint crack in the floor where water had pooled. She bent down, examining it. It was nothing dangerous, just a minor leak, but the dog had noticed it immediately. Her heart swelled slightly. This wasn't just observation. This was intuition. Emily realized the dog's careful behavior, its focus, and its subtle signals were its way of communicating, of drawing attention to details humans often overlooked. The room felt quieter now, the soft patter of rain outside mingling with her own rising curiosity. Over the next hour, the dog's gentle intuition became more apparent. It sniffed around a chair where a visitor had briefly set a bag. It paused near the door each time it opened, alert but calm. Emily observed, fascinated, jotting small notes in her clipboard without breaking the silent connection. She began to see patterns in behavior, in attention, in timing. The dog never acted aggressively, never barked unnecessarily. Its presence was calm, measured. Yet there was a message in every small gesture. Emily realized this was a dog who thought, who remembered, who understood more than she could immediately see. Every tilt of the head, every subtle paw movement, carried intention. At one point, the dog sniffed near a chair, paused, and then returned to its corner. Emily approached slowly. "What do you want me to see?" she asked softly. The dog glanced at her, and she felt that silent acknowledgement again. It wasn't fear or warning, it was communication. She could feel its thoughtfulness, the way it carefully measured every step before acting. Emily smiled gently, her voice warm and even. "You're smart, aren't you? Paying attention to everything." The dog's ears flicked slightly, almost like a nod. The soft rhythm of rain outside mirrored the quiet rhythm building between them. Emily could feel the connection deepening, the gentle trust forming with each passing moment. She paused for a few long beats, letting the silence stretch, letting the dog's calm focus wash over her. It was an unusual quiet, one that demanded patience and attention. She realized that this dog, hiding quietly in a corner every time it rained, wasn't afraid. It was intentional. It was thoughtful. And in that thoughtfulness lay a story, a truth waiting to be uncovered. As Emily watched, the dog shifted once more, tilting its head toward the window. The rain was heavier now, droplets splashing against the glass with a soft rhythm. The dog's eyes seemed to follow some invisible thread, some quiet story outside the walls of the clinic. Emily felt her heart tighten again. She didn't know what the dog saw, what it remembered, or what it sensed, but she knew it mattered. The quiet intuition of the dog spoke louder than words ever could. Emily sat nearby, absorbing the rhythm of its movements, the subtlety of its signals. Every twitch of a paw, every lift of an ear, every glance carried meaning she didn't yet fully understand. But she knew this: the dog was guiding her toward something important, something gentle, emotional, and quietly heartbreaking. The morning passed slowly, filled with this silent observation. Rain continued to drum lightly on the windows, soft light shimmering across the waiting room. Emily leaned back slightly, feeling the warmth of the connection, the calm intensity of the dog's quiet intuition. And in that quiet, soft, cinematic moment, she realized the truth: she was no longer just an observer. She was a participant in the dog's story, a story it was patiently, delicately sharing, one small gesture at a time. She whispered again, barely audible, "I see you, and I'm here." The dog's eyes met hers briefly, full of trust, full of something almost human in its depth. Emily's chest tightened, her heart tugged by the silent story unfolding in this rainy corner of the clinic. She leaned forward slightly, allowing the small, careful moments of connection to breathe. And in the gentle rhythm of that quiet morning, she knew, without words, that the dog's intuition was more than guidance, it was a bridge to something profoundly emotional, something she would soon understand. The rain had been falling steadily for hours, casting a quiet, silver-gray haze over the clinic. Light filtered through the windows in soft, diffused sheets, painting everything in muted warmth. Emily sat near the small dog's corner, notebook in hand, her posture calm and unobtrusive. She was fascinated not just by its behavior, but by the quiet intelligence she sensed behind those wide, dark eyes. The dog stayed low, tail curled, but its attention never wavered. It observed the subtle changes in the room, the creak of a chair, the shuffle of feet, the barely audible drip from the ceiling. Each sound, each motion, was noted, processed, and responded to with gentle precision. Emily leaned forward slightly, pen poised over her notebook. "You notice everything, don't you?" she murmured, her voice soft, reflective. The dog's ears twitched at the sound of her voice, and it glanced briefly toward her, as though acknowledging her presence. It was clear now, this wasn't simple shyness. There was thoughtfulness, awareness, a quiet, purposeful intuition. As the morning passed, Emily began to see patterns. Each time the door opened, the dog would shift, subtly adjusting its position. When the rain pattered harder against the windows, its eyes would flick toward the sound, ears pricked, alert yet calm. She scribbled notes quietly, her curiosity growing with every small gesture. She found herself drawn into the rhythm of the dog's actions, almost as if she were learning to think in its quiet, meticulous way. There was something deliberate in every movement, a story hidden in behavior that humans often overlooked. And the more she watched, the more Emily realized how finely tuned this little creature was to its environment. At one point, the dog rose slightly, sniffing the air and then pausing near the edge of the waiting room. Emily followed slowly, careful not to startle it. The dog's paw hovered near a puddle forming beneath a chair. It didn't touch it, just observed, then returned to its corner. She leaned down, curiosity tinged with warmth. "Are you showing me something?" she whispered. The dog's dark eyes met hers for a brief moment, holding attention without urgency. Emily's heart tightened in that small pause. She realized she was no longer merely watching, she was participating. Every small gesture, every subtle sign, was a language she didn't yet fully understand, but one she could feel. The quiet intuition of the dog seemed to speak directly to her, even across the invisible barrier of species. She found herself thinking about the dog's past. Who had it been before this moment? What memories might it carry with it every time it saw rain? The thought made her chest ache gently, a mix of curiosity and empathy. She had seen shyness, fear, and hesitation before, but never this kind of quiet intelligence, this careful, deliberate attention. The dog shifted again, tilting its head toward the window as a particularly large drop slid down the glass. Emily leaned closer, letting her voice be soft, patient, warm. "I wonder what you're remembering, or feeling," she murmured. The dog stayed still, eyes following the motion of the raindrop, small nostrils flaring, subtle muscles tensing and relaxing. She could feel the weight of memory, the pull of emotion in that tiny body. For the first time, Emily began to sense a story behind the dog's hiding. This wasn't fear. It wasn't mere habit. It was a careful response to something far deeper, something only it could fully know. And as she watched, she realized that the dog had chosen her presence as safe, as understanding, as someone who might eventually comprehend its quiet language. She exhaled slowly, letting her hands rest on her notebook. The room seemed to shrink around the two of them, the sound of rain outside and the soft hum of the clinic creating a private, reflective space. Emily felt a strange mixture of wonder and responsibility. This small dog, with its careful observations and patient gestures, had drawn her into its world. The rain began to soften, lightening to a mist that blurred the edges of the windows. Emily's eyes never left the dog. She could see the subtle twitch of an ear, the way its gaze followed a faint shadow across the floor, the slight lift of a paw as it adjusted position. Each movement was a message, a clue, a gentle piece of the story it had yet to share. She whispered again, softly, almost to herself, "I don't understand it all yet, but I want to." The dog tilted its head, as if acknowledging her words. Emily felt a warm pulse of connection in that moment. It was subtle, quiet, delicate, but undeniable. The tiny gestures, the small signals, the careful attention, it all added up to something bigger than she had anticipated. Something emotional. Something moving. Something waiting to be revealed. By the time the morning began to fade into early afternoon, Emily knew this was only the beginning. Her curiosity had deepened into something more, a commitment to understanding, to following the dog's quiet guidance. The dog remained in its corner, calm, observant, patient. But Emily could sense it was testing her gently, inviting her into its world, and preparing her for the story it was ready to tell. She leaned back slightly, letting the rhythm of rain and quiet settle over them. And in that cinematic, soft-lit moment, she realized, the dog wasn't hiding from the world. It was protecting a memory, guiding her gently toward understanding, and waiting for the right time to reveal the truth behind its rainy day retreat. The rain had softened to a gentle drizzle by the afternoon. The light through the clinic windows was warmer now, golden-hued, filtering through drops on the glass like scattered jewels. The waiting room felt quiet, calm, almost suspended in time. Emily remained near the dog's corner, sitting cross-legged on the floor, notebook forgotten, letting her presence speak instead of her words. The small dog had shifted slightly from its earlier position, though still close to the corner. Its eyes, dark and reflective, followed Emily with quiet curiosity, watching her movements, reading her stillness. The more time they shared, the more Emily noticed subtle gestures that revealed the dog's careful thoughtfulness, slight tilts of the head, gentle paw adjustments, soft exhalations that seemed timed with the rhythm of the rain. Emily reached out slowly, palm flat, voice soft. "It's okay, you don't have to be afraid," she murmured. The dog lifted its head slightly, ears flicking, then returned its gaze to the window. It wasn't fear that held it there, it was memory, intuition, and something else, something Emily was beginning to feel herself. As the minutes passed, the small dog allowed subtle interactions, tiny bridges of trust forming. It let Emily's hand brush briefly against its side, soft and damp, without recoiling. A flick of its tail, barely noticeable, hinted at a fragile acceptance. Emily exhaled slowly, her her chest warming with each quiet acknowledgement. There was no rush, no forced friendliness, just the slow unfolding of understanding. She noticed the way the dog responded to small changes in her tone, the calmness in her gestures, the patience in her pauses. When she whispered softly, "I'm here," the dog's ears twitched. Its nose lifted slightly, sniffing, measuring, and almost considering. Emily realized she was learning its language, one small movement at a time, building trust not through words, but through calm presence. A quiet moment settled between them. Emily watched as the dog moved closer to the light from the window, resting its chin on the floor. Its eyes, reflective and curious, met hers once again. She felt an unexpected bond forming, gentle, warm, unspoken. It was a connection that didn't need urgency, drama, or noise. It only required observation, patience, and a heart willing to notice the subtleties. The rain tapped lightly against the glass, casting patterns of light across the room. Emily reached her hand toward the dog again, this time letting her fingers hover above its head before softly resting there. The dog leaned just slightly into her hand, its body still tense, yet receptive. A quiet exhale, almost imperceptible, passed between them, sealing a small bridge of trust. Emily whispered, almost to herself, I think we understand each other, don't we?" The dog's gaze held her steadily. It wasn't just observation anymore, there was recognition, awareness, a fragile form of connection that transcended words. Every small movement spoke volumes, patience, curiosity, and the slow emergence of companionship. She noticed subtle changes in the dog's breathing, its posture relaxing fractionally, hinting at comfort. Emily mirrored that calm energy, slow exhalations, measured gestures, soft voice. The two of them existed in a quiet cinematic space, where rain and light and presence combined into something deeply intimate. The dog's nose twitched again, sniffing toward the door where a nurse had briefly passed by, but it didn't move. Instead, it returned its gaze to Emily, seemingly assessing, waiting, trusting. Emily's heart warmed at the silent communication. She began to realize this was no ordinary relationship forming, this was a bond that would carry depth, understanding, and patience. Hours seemed to stretch, though only minutes passed. The quiet companionship allowed Emily to reflect on her own feelings, curiosity evolving into empathy, observation turning into care, distance shrinking into closeness. The dog wasn't just responding to her presence, it was offering her a glimpse into its inner world, tiny gestures at a time. When the rain finally began to ease further, sunlight breaking through in faint beams, Emily whispered gently, "You're safe, here with me." The dog's body shifted again, resting more comfortably, yet still attentive. There was awareness in every movement, a calm, quiet vigilance paired with tentative trust. In that golden, cinematic light, Emily felt the weight of the connection deepen. She understood the small acts, the subtle twitches, the careful sniffing, the measured pauses, were more than behavior. They were invitations, to notice, to understand, to share a moment of quiet, profound companionship. She leaned back slightly, letting the dog's calm presence fill the space, and felt a warm realization, the bond between them had grown stronger in these simple, patient hours. The dog wasn't just observing her anymore, it had allowed her to observe it, and through that observation, the seeds of understanding and trust had begun to bloom. The rain outside dwindled to a soft whisper. Inside, the quiet connection between human and dog remained. Emily smiled softly, voice low and steady, "We'll figure this out together, every step, every day." And in that quiet, cinematic corner of the clinic, she understood fully, this dog had chosen her as its witness, its companion, and its friend. And the story it carried in its heart, delicate, intuitive, and emotional, was slowly, gently, ready to reveal itself. The clinic was bathed in the soft glow of afternoon light filtering through rain-speckled windows. The rain had almost stopped, leaving a faint shimmer on the glass, and the world outside seemed washed clean. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lavender and warm disinfectant, a combination that always made Emily feel calm. Yet today, calm felt different, charged with quiet anticipation. The small dog remained in its corner, tail curled, body low, eyes alert. But something had changed. Its gestures were no longer just cautious observation. They were deliberate signals, subtle invitations to follow its lead. Emily noticed the difference immediately. There was a message here, waiting for recognition. She leaned forward, voice soft, careful. Are you trying to show me something? The dog tilted its head slightly, ears flicking as if acknowledging her question. Its nose twitched as it sniffed the floor, the air, the subtle scents left behind by people earlier in the morning. Emily followed its gaze instinctively, curiosity growing, heartwarming with each silent cue. The dog rose slowly and padded a few steps toward the examination area. Emily rose with it, careful not to startle, careful to let it set the pace. Every movement seemed meaningful, the deliberate placement of paws, the subtle sniffing of corners, the gentle glance back toward her as if to ensure she was following. She realized this was more than intuition, it was a quiet guidance, a path unfolding with purpose. They approached a corner near the back where a faint shadow fell across the floor. The dog stopped, low and still, nose hovering just above the ground. Emily knelt, peering closer. There, almost hidden in the dim light, she noticed faint, worn fur, older, matted, delicate. Her breath caught. The dog's gaze met hers again, steady, unwavering. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was memory, recognition, longing. Emily's chest tightened. I think this means something to you, she whispered, hand hovering over the dog's head. The dog leaned forward slightly, almost imperceptibly, as if confirming her intuition. Its eyes were deep, reflective, filled with something she could feel but not yet name. She glanced around, realizing the dog's behavior wasn't random. It had led her here, to this quiet, unnoticed corner of the clinic. Something in this space triggered recognition, a memory etched into its small frame. Emily exhaled slowly, letting her presence remain calm and steady, allowing the dog to guide her through the silent narrative it carried. The dog lowered itself gently, resting its chin on the floor. Its eyes stayed on hers, filled with trust and anticipation. Emily felt a pang of empathy. This was a story of devotion, of memory, of something lost and yet preserved in the small gestures of a lifetime. She whispered, I'm here. I see you. Minutes passed in quiet observation. The dog's subtle movements, ears twitching, paws adjusting, small shifts of body weight spoke of memory, of past experiences, of moments tied to something beyond this room, beyond this day. Emily realized the gentle tension she felt all morning was the weight of remembrance. The dog wasn't just hiding from Rain, it was recalling, processing, sharing a story with her, piece by piece, gesture by gesture. A soft exhale escaped Emily's lips. She let the silence stretch, letting the quiet intimacy of the moment breathe around them. The dog shifted slightly closer to her, nose brushing against her hand briefly, a tender acknowledgement of trust. Emily's heart swelled. This was more than connection, it was shared understanding, a subtle bridge between species, emotion flowing in unspoken rhythms. She leaned closer, voice low and even, careful not to disturb. Tell me, what happened? The dog didn't answer in words, of course. But its gaze, its posture, the very stillness of its body, spoke volumes. Emily could feel the story in each subtle gesture, in each careful sniff, in each pause. It was a story of devotion, of quiet longing, of experiences etched deep into the heart. The rain outside had faded completely now, leaving a golden, cinematic haze over the clinic. Sunlight reflected off the wet pavement outside, casting soft, flickering patterns on the floor. Emily remained kneeling, allowing the dog's slow, careful guidance to unfold. She realized she was no longer simply an observer, she was a participant in its memory, invited to witness, to understand, to care. A soft, almost imperceptible whine escaped the dog's lips, not fearful, but tender, as if confirming what Emily had begun to sense. The story behind the rainy day hiding was slowly surfacing, delicate and emotional, carried in small gestures and silent communication. Emily's eyes misted slightly, touched by the weight of understanding. The dog shifted again, resting more comfortably but still alert, its gaze locking on hers. Emily whispered once more, softly, gently, I promise. I'll understand. The quiet intensity of that moment, bathed in warm light and the memory of rain, filled the room with a gentle cinematic intimacy. The dog's gestures, its careful movements, were a revelation waiting to be fully seen, a gentle prelude to the truth it had been carrying in its heart all along. In that soft-lit corner, Emily realized the story was beginning to unfold. The dog's quiet hiding, its measured actions, its intuition, all were leading to something emotional, moving, and utterly beautiful. And she knew, with calm certainty, that the gentle reveal had only just begun. The late afternoon sun spilled softly through the clinic windows, streaking the waiting room with warm, golden light. Rain puddles shimmered outside, reflecting the gentle glow, while inside, the quiet hum of the clinic carried a calming rhythm. Emily sat near the dog, notebook set aside, fully absorbed in the subtle, deliberate signals the small animal was giving. The dog had moved slightly closer to her side, ears pricked, eyes attentive. Its gaze was fixed on the far corner, where faint scratches in the floor caught Emily's attention. She knelt, heart tightening, watching as the dog's nose hovered over the marks. There was an intensity in its focus, a deliberate pause, a careful sniff, a gentle glance back at Emily, as if to say, "See this with me." Emily reached out slowly, letting her fingers hover just above its damp fur. "I see it. I'm right here," she murmured softly. The dog exhaled almost imperceptibly, a sound that seemed to carry relief. She felt her own chest tighten with emotion, realizing the depth of what she was witnessing. Then it happened. A memory surfaced, not for Emily, but for the dog. Its posture shifted subtly, ears flicking backward, tail tensing slightly before relaxing. The small animal turned its attention toward the corner again, a silent narrative unfolding in its movements. Emily felt a lump in her throat. She had been piecing together the dog's story for hours, but now she sensed the turning point, the moment where hidden emotion and memory met understanding. A soft whine escaped the dog's lips, tender, almost mournful. Emily's hand moved instinctively to rest gently on its back. She felt warmth, small tremors, and a silent plea, not for comfort, but for acknowledgement. This was no longer mere curiosity. This was a story reaching its most fragile, emotional moment. She whispered gently, her voice slow and calm, "I understand. I think I understand now." The dog's eyes met hers, wide, luminous, full of recognition and trust. In that gaze, Emily felt the weight of experiences carried silently over years, days of joy, moments of loss, echoes of fear, and traces of devotion. The room seemed to shrink around them. The soft patter of distant rain, the filtered sunlight, and the faint hum of the clinic blended into a cinematic cocoon. Emily could almost hear the unspoken words behind the dog's movements, the memories tied to every rainy day, every quiet corner, every cautious gesture. Slowly, the dog lowered itself further to the floor, curling slightly but leaving its head lifted, eyes fixed on hers. Emily's breath came a little faster, not in fear, but in awe of the quiet emotional truth unfolding before her. Every small motion, the twitch of an ear, the lift of a paw, the gentle shift of body weight, was part of a narrative, a lifetime of emotions distilled into gestures she could finally begin to understand. She leaned closer, voice low and even, "You trusted me, to notice, to understand." The dog's tail twitched lightly, almost imperceptibly, but Emily felt it as a confirmation, a bridge across the space between them. The dog had been carrying this memory carefully, shielding it from fear, guiding Emily gently toward comprehension. Emily's mind drifted to the rainy mornings that had begun this journey. Each hiding, each cautious movement, each quiet observation, it had been a story of loyalty, loss, and devotion all along. The dog had been hiding not from fear, but from memory, painful, tender, yet essential. And now, with her calm presence, the turning point had arrived. A deep, gentle sigh seemed to pass between them, an unspoken acknowledgement of understanding. Emily reached forward, letting her hand rest fully on the dog's back. It leaned slightly into her touch, a tiny but meaningful act of trust. She could feel the tension, the emotion, the story itself slowly lifting from the dog's small frame. Time seemed suspended. The late sunlight shifted across the floor, casting patterns of warmth and light. Emily's eyes misted as she whispered, "You've carried this alone for so long, but not anymore." The dog's gaze softened, and she knew the emotional turning point had arrived. In that quiet, golden-lit corner, Emily realized that the dog's journey, from hiding in the corner on rainy days to guiding her to understanding, had reached a pivotal moment. The dog's intuition, its careful communication, its gentle trust all had led to this revelation. The quiet weight of memory, emotion, and longing had been acknowledged, and now, the path toward healing could begin. The small dog rested its chin gently on the floor, eyes never leaving hers. Emily stayed nearby, calm, present, letting the quiet intimacy of the moment carry them forward. The story of rain, memory, and trust was now unfolding fully, and Emily felt honored to witness it. Outside, sunlight glimmered on wet streets, rain fading to a distant memory. Inside, the clinic remained calm, but in that small, cinematic corner, a profound emotional shift had occurred. Emily's heart warmed as she realized, the turning point wasn't just for the dog, it was for her as well. She had entered this quiet world of intuition, memory, and emotion, and emerged connected, deeply and gently, to the small creature before her. The dog's gaze held hers, steady, calm, and trusting. Emily exhaled, feeling the full weight of the moment. The emotional turning point had arrived, not in words, not in drama, but in quiet gestures, slow trust, and a cinematic pause filled with warmth and understanding. By late afternoon, the golden sunlight streaming through the windows had softened into a warm, amber glow. The waiting room, now quiet except for the faint hum of the clinic, felt almost suspended in time. Emily sat close to the small dog, her hand resting gently on its damp fur, feeling the calm pulse of its body, the subtle movements of breath and heartbeat. The dog's gaze remained fixed on her, deep, luminous, and steady. And then, slowly, the story it had carried all this time began to reveal itself, not in words, but in gestures, posture, and quiet intuition. Emily felt her chest tighten as she realized what had been hidden behind the rainy day hiding, the careful observation, and the gentle, almost imperceptible signals. The dog lowered its body slightly, ears flicking, tail curling tightly. Emily noticed a faint, almost imperceptible quiver in its paws. She leaned closer, voice soft, slow, filled with warmth. "It's okay, you can show me." The dog sniffed at the corner, nose tracing a familiar path, and then glanced up at Emily, eyes full of trust. Memories began to align in Emily's mind, the way the dog reacted to rain, the careful sniffing, the silent invitations to notice what others missed. And then the truth became undeniable. This little dog had once belonged to someone who had loved it dearly. Someone who had been present in its happiest moments and, heartbreakingly, in its final ones. The rainy days, the hiding, the careful attention, it was all tied to memory, to devotion, to love that had not faded. Emily's chest tightened further. She whispered softly, "You've been carrying all of this, all alone." The dog's gaze softened, and it nudged her hand gently with its nose. It wasn't seeking comfort, it was confirming understanding. Its actions told a story of loyalty, of memory, of grief preserved in small, careful gestures. The quiet moments stretched. Emily allowed herself to imagine the past, a loving home, days filled with joy, walks in the sun, laughter, soft words whispered over a fur-covered head. And then, the absence, the sudden, quiet loss that left the dog holding onto memory, protecting it, honoring it, even as it navigated the world anew. She reached out slowly, letting her hand trace a gentle line along the dog's back. "You loved, and you were loved," she murmured. The dog's tail gave a tiny wag, a subtle acknowledgement of what Emily had understood. Every twitch of an ear, every careful sniff, every deliberate pause had been a piece of this story. Now, the pieces fit. The truth behind the dog's hiding was one of devotion, loyalty, and memory carried with gentle care. Emily's eyes misted, but her voice remained calm, steady, warm. "You didn't forget, and you never will. But you found me now." The dog leaned slightly into her, resting its chin on her hand, a tender gesture of connection. The quiet room seemed to hum with emotion, the bond, the understanding, the shared recognition of love that had endured loss and time. She noticed the subtle relaxation in the dog's body. Its posture softened, ears lifting slightly, eyes brightening. The weight it had carried for months, perhaps years, was finally acknowledged. Emily felt tears prick her own eyes, not of sadness, but of profound empathy and warmth. This was the story of quiet devotion, a tale not told in words, but in the poetry of small, careful gestures. The rain outside had stopped completely. Sunlight reflected off wet streets, casting gentle patterns across the clinic floor. Emily whispered again, low and soothing, "You can rest now, you're safe. You're seen." The dog's eyes never left hers, trust and understanding shining through. Emily realized that this revelation, this heart-touching truth, was more than a story of loss. It was also a story of healing, of connection, of the power of patience, intuition, and empathy. The dog's behavior, so carefully measured, had been a silent guide, teaching her the importance of noticing, waiting, and honoring memory. Minutes passed in quiet intimacy. The dog rested calmly, occasionally lifting its head to meet Emily's gaze. She let the silence stretch, allowing the emotional beat to breathe, to settle. The warmth of the light, the memory of rain, and the shared understanding between them created a cinematic tableau of trust, love, and healing. Emily whispered softly one last time, "Your story, your love, it's safe with me." The dog's small body shifted slightly, leaning gently against her side. Its eyes closed momentarily, a sign of comfort, of release, of trust fully placed in her presence. In that amber-lit corner of the clinic, Emily felt a profound sense of completion. The dog's story, hidden, delicate, heart-touching, was now understood. The truth behind the rainy day hiding had been revealed, a tale of loyalty, devotion, and memory, preserved in quiet gestures and unwavering intuition. And through that revelation, a bond had formed, strong, gentle, and enduring. The clinic remained calm, sunbeams flickering across the floor. But in that small, cinematic space, something extraordinary had occurred. A story of love and memory had found acknowledgement. The dog, once quiet, hiding, and cautious, now rested with a newfound peace. Emily, too, carried the emotional weight of understanding, her heart touched by the quiet courage and devotion of a small, intuitive creature. And as she stroked its damp fur, softly murmuring words of warmth and reassurance, she knew this connection, this gentle revelation, would shape everything that came next. The heart-touching truth had been revealed, and it was more beautiful than anyone could have imagined. The late afternoon light softened into a warm, golden haze, spilling gently across the clinic floor. Outside, the rain had long ceased, leaving streets glistening with puddles and the faint scent of wet earth. Inside, the clinic felt serene, almost suspended in the quiet intimacy that had been building all day. Emily sat near the small dog, hand resting gently on its back, feeling the slow rhythm of its breathing, the warmth of its body pressed lightly against her. The dog, once cautious and withdrawn, now rested more openly. Its ears were relaxed, tail softly curling beside it, eyes bright yet calm. Emily noticed subtle movements, the small shifts, the gentle stretches, the soft, contented exhalations that spoke of a newfound peace. The tension that had lingered during countless rainy days had lifted. Trust, understanding, and connection now filled that quiet corner. Emily smiled softly, her voice low and steady, "You're safe, you've been so patient, so careful." And now, her words trailed into the quiet, letting the moment breathe. The dog responded with a small nuzzle against her hand, a gesture of pure trust, acknowledgement, and release. She thought of all the rainy mornings, the quiet hiding, the careful signals she had observed. Each had been a chapter of memory, a fragment of devotion preserved in the small body of this little creature. And now, at last, the story had found closure not through words, but through patience, presence, and gentle understanding. Emily let her gaze wander, noticing the way sunlight reflected on the wet floor outside, the soft shimmer of late afternoon across the clinic. The dog lifted its head slightly, eyes meeting hers, and she felt the full weight of the bond that had grown between them. She whispered, "We understand each other now, and we'll keep understanding, every day." For the first time, the dog allowed herself, or rather, allowed Emily, to witness complete relaxation. The careful vigilance, the small pauses, the constant observation, all gave way to a calm that was both earned and shared. Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest. This wasn't just the end of a story. It was a beginning, a story of healing, trust, and emotional continuity. The clinic remained quiet. The soft hum of lights, the distant echo of a door closing, and the faint rustle of papers blended seamlessly with the lingering warmth of human and dog presence. Emily let the dog rest against her side, feeling the gentle rise and fall of its breathing, each small exhale a reminder of resilience, devotion, and memory honored. Minutes passed in silence. Emily reflected on the emotional journey, the gentle mystery, the quiet intuition, the turning point, and the heart-touching truth. She realized that this dog had taught her something profound. Love, memory, and devotion often speak in the smallest gestures, and healing comes from patience, empathy, and shared trust. She stroked the dog's damp fur slowly, deliberately, letting each movement carry warmth and reassurance. "You've been brave, you've been patient, and now, it's your time to rest and feel safe," she murmured. The dog leaned into her hand, a small, tender sigh escaping as if confirming understanding and acceptance. Emily noticed the subtle sparkle in its eyes, a reflection of sunlight and trust intertwined. The clinic, bathed in golden light, felt like a sanctuary, a space of quiet resolution. Every detail of the light, the warmth, the calm breathing, the soft connection was a testament to the bond formed through gentle guidance and emotional understanding. She rose slowly, careful not to disturb the dog, and fetched a clean blanket, spreading it near the corner. "Here," she said softly, guiding the dog gently. "Rest here, you deserve it." The dog stepped onto the blanket carefully, then settled fully, curling into a relaxed, comfortable posture. Emily knelt nearby, watching, heart full, letting the quiet intimacy of the moment linger. Outside, the final remnants of rain shimmered in the evening light. Inside, a profound sense of closure settled over the clinic. Emily realized that the journey, the rainy day hiding, the subtle intuition, the emotional turning points had reached its natural conclusion. And yet, in this closure was hope, continuity, and quiet joy. She whispered one last time, soft and steady, "Your story, your heart, is safe with me." The dog's eyes met hers briefly, a silent acknowledgement, before settling completely into rest. Emily exhaled, feeling the warm glow of understanding and completion settle around them both. In that cinematic, amber-lit corner of the clinic, the small dog had moved from hiding to trust, from memory to acknowledgement, from quiet intuition to emotional release. Emily, too, had grown, learning patience, empathy, and the profound beauty of silent connection. And as the sun dipped lower, casting soft golden streaks across the room, Emily smiled, feeling the bond between human and dog stronger than ever. The story of rainy days, quiet gestures, and heart-touching truth had reached its gentle, healing conclusion. Together, they sat in calm companionship, a story of intuition, devotion, and emotional closure, complete yet living, breathing, and warm in the quiet intimacy of shared trust.